Today on Pro Church Daily, we're talking about what to do when your pastor will not stop interfering with the creative ministry.
Well, hey there, and welcome to Pro Church Daily, the show where in 10 minutes or less, you'll get your daily dose of tips and tactics to help your church share the message of Jesus while we navigate the biggest communication shift we've seen in the last 500 years. I'm your host, Alex Mills. I'm joined as always by the boss man. It's Brady Shearer, and today we're talking about when your pastor keeps interfering with your creative ministry.
The topic for this episode of Pro Church Daily was triggered from a Facebook message that I got from a guy named Dustin, and I want to read aloud what he sent.
Hashtag triggered.
Dustin said, "Okay, I showed my pastor the website I built for our church, in which I am very proud of. It's the first one that I've designed, and I think it looks good. Me being the designer, I'm really picky about how things look and how they feel. Well, my pastor asked to be an admin on the website. He said he wants to design his own page called From the Pastor's Desk, and I just don't think I want to let him because he has no sense of design. Should I let him, or should I try to talk him out of it?" And Dustin's story is one that many of us have experienced firsthand, and I think there's some context that we can add to Dustin's scenario that will make this conversation a little bit more helpful. Dustin comes from a church of about 50 people.
Okay.
And this is something that we see way more, disproportionately more, in smaller churches than in larger churches.
Yeah.
And the simple reason for that is not that larger churches are better, but if you are a church of 1,000, it is impossible for the lead pastor to do everything. You can't reach that size without delegating and bringing on people that are either smarter than you, better than you, or just have more available time than you, and then you can delegate certain tasks and ministries to them. And we've seen this same exact thing at Pro Church Tools. When the Nucleus launch finished, I kind of sat our whole team down and I said, "Look, guys and gal, I cannot do Pro Church Tools and what we do here with Nucleus and StoryTape and our other products without you." And that didn't used to be the case. It used to be the case that, we hired people and I gave them stuff that I could do,
Right.
and I just didn't have the time for. And that was kind of the first step. Now we've gotten to the point where, for instance, we have 3 certified drone operators, yourself included, licensed in Canada and America. I have never flown a drone once in my entire life. And that may come as a surprise to a lot of people because, StoryTape is like 30%, aerial footage. I have not flown a drone. If you gave me the drone, I would break it and then yell at you for giving me the drone to begin with, because you should not allowed me to. When you are a church of 250 or less, and really the smaller you are, the more that this is a problem or potential problem, what you have to understand, and this is the first step, I think, for Dustin to navigate this situation, to empathize with his pastor and to understand where he or she is coming from. If you're a pastor of a church of 50 people, you are very conditioned to do every single thing yourself, out of necessity. And we see this when the lead pastor is also the worship pastor, and they're also running the student ministry, and they're also the one that are doing visitation, and they're helping with the outreach, and they're going to the food bank, because they're the lead pastor of about 50 people, and that means they have to do everything. If you want to grow beyond that, if that's a goal of yours to have more people, or if it's a goal of yours to do things that you are just not equipped to do, you need to begin that very difficult process of delegating what you should not be doing, or what you cannot be doing, or what you're just not able to do, to others. And the book that really helped me out as a leader do this is a book called The E-Myth Revisited. It's probably been the most influential book that I've ever read when it comes to managing a team and running an organization. It was the first book that almost gave me a matrix, essentially, of saying, okay, here's what you should be doing, and here's what you could be doing but probably shouldn't be doing, and here's what you actually are unable to do skill-wise, expertise-wise. And that really allowed me to kind of fill up those columns each and say, okay, this is what I should be doing, and I can delegate this to Mitch, our first employee, and I can give this off to our editor. And so I would first, Dustin, just empathize with your pastor, understand where they're coming from. They are not used to being able to hand something off to somebody else. They are so conditioned to doing everything themselves that it's just their second nature to be like, oh yeah, I'd like to create my own page. And I'm not saying that you empathizing with them will make this conversation or navigating this any easier, but it's just important to understand where they are coming from. At the end of the day, this is the bottom line for you, Dustin. You cannot do your job if your senior leadership is going to be micromanaging you and not allowing you to do it. And so you need to have that conversation with them. First, be like, look, I understand. I'm here to help you. Look, you are so good at X, Y, and Z. I don't think that you want to be doing web design. I'm here to do that for you. And this is where the conversation becomes a little bit easier, because at the end of the day, you're just trying to make things easier for them. Yeah. I'm trying to take less work off of your plate so that you can do the work that really matters that only you can do.
Yeah.
You're a pastor in a smaller church. Where have you seen this happen?
Yeah, I can speak to this directly, because when you were describing that situation of small churches and pastors, you're reading my mail, because I'm an associate pastor of a church of about 100 people, and so I know exactly what it's like. And this is not true in every case, but in a lot of cases with smaller churches, like 50 people, 75 people, 100 people, your senior pastor is likely one of your founding members. And so, and like I said, that's not true in every case, but in a lot of cases, they built a lot of what your church is from the ground up with their own hands, and they were the only hands often at some point. And so to take some of those responsibilities out of their hands, you used the language earlier. This is can be a difficult transition, but it's one that's necessary. And you've seen this, Brady, in growing this company. You built it up with your own two hands, and then they came to a point where your hands couldn't hold everything anymore, and you had to start delegating. And that's kind of it's foreign territory. It can be uncomfortable and different, but it's necessary. And something that I've done, Dustin, in my own church, and I've kind of had to surrender a little bit of room for our senior pastor. And what I mean by that is our pastor doesn't know anything about design, doesn't care too much about aesthetic on Facebook or whatever, but he really likes to write some of his own thoughts on our public Facebook page on Sunday morning. And so at first, when he started asking me, hey, can I post something on Sunday morning? I didn't know how to say that, because I didn't know what to say, because I have a daily posting schedule on our Facebook page, and what he wanted to post wasn't really fitting in with what I was going for during the week. But what I found was, when I started saying yes, and he was breaking all the rules, like not using any images, no emojis, just like just writing just basic text and not doing it in
for this is the day.
Yeah,
the Lord has
just
made.
Not doing it in like great formatting to get people's attention on Facebook, breaking all the rules. And what's so offensive to me about what happened was, every single time his Sunday morning posts that break all of our social media best practice rules, they always perform better than my posts do during the week. Like, I take so much time to curate all these thoughtful posts, create designs, polls, engaging stuff, all this stuff, and a lot of it performs well. But those Sunday morning posts that he writes just blow mine out of the water. And so I kind of had to let him color outside of this box that I had created. And especially as creatives, we do that. We have these list of guidelines or even brand books or whatever, and we have to stay within these lines. But I gave him just the freedom on one day a week to post outside of that brand book. And he surprised me, and our church engages with it more often than how they're engaging with I'm posting. So you never know what can happen with this page that he wants to design on your website. Maybe find a way to compromise and kind of see his vision come to reality while making that transition of giving some responsibility to you and your creative team.
I think what you're alluding to is the process. It's not an instant thing where you're used to doing everything and then suddenly you're delegating. At this point, there are only a small select number of things within the Pro Church Tools organization that I do and nobody else does. And most of it is content-based, because that's really like one of the select few things that only I can do, and almost everything else is delegated. It is now so much easier for me to delegate because I've seen how powerful it can be. The first time I handed something off to Mitch, our first employee, I was like, Mitch, don't screw it up. Mitch, don't screw it up. Mitch, don't screw it up. And then eventually Mitch screwed it up.
Right.
And I had to kind of deal with that first time that happened. But what was amazing was how much free time I was then given to do the things that I knew that I needed to be spending time on, because he was doing kind of these mundane tasks that I didn't want to do. And so what you're alluding to here is like, okay, I'm still going to take the vast majority of this, workload, because it's what I need to be doing. I can create this kind of small margin, this sliver where he can still feel like he's involved. Yeah. And it kind of evolves. It just starts smaller, or it starts bigger, and then it gets smaller, or whatever. You want to just kind of be beginning to move always forward towards, progressing towards everyone maximizing their strengths and weaknesses while still maintaining the team. And it's very difficult. It's kind of this endless dance. And so best wishes, Dustin. Good luck in this conversation. Feel free to check out that book, E-Myth Revisited. Yeah. It's helpful for me. Perhaps it can be helpful for you. That'll do it for today's episode of Pro Church Daily. We'll see you tomorrow. Hey, thanks for watching today's episode of Pro Church Daily. If you haven't already, subscribe to this channel and turn on notifications so you never miss another one.
And if you like this video, it would mean the world to us if you give it a thumbs up.
Thanks for watching. We'll see you tomorrow.